I want to talk about the 2025 NHL Four Nations Face-Off. And if you guys didn't hear about this or see this, it was amazing in North America. International hockey tournament in the middle of the NHL season featuring Canada, Finland, Sweden, and the USA, and temporarily placed the NHL's annual All-Star game, which we'll get more to that in a second, for 2025. So they had to come up with something to generate interest. This is all taking place on the heels of the Super Bowl and in the middle of the NBA season. So it was all the players taking part had to have NHL contracts and had to have that nationality of USA, Canada, Sweden, or Finland. Now, Canada emerged victorious, I'm sorry to say, in overtime as Connor McDavid goals. He seals it in overtime 3-2 to win it in Boston. And this was after the USA beat Canada in our early round play in Montreal. So it was just amazing. It's the run up to the final. The lowest price tickets I'm hearing were around $1,000 on a lot of the resale places. Not quite Super Bowl levels, but really captured the imagination of the fans. And the final, get this, guys, was watched by over 16 million fans in North America. Now, that is the second most watched hockey game of the past decade behind Game 7 of the 2024 Stanley Cup Final, and was the most viewed non-NFL game ever on ESPN Plus, the streaming site. So by any standards, it has been a huge success for the NHL. And one person who probably is quite happy is Steve Mayer. He is the NHL's president for content and events, and I had the chance to chat with him and recount what took place and the future of the format.
We knew that we're going to go to the Olympics again, and in 2026 we'll participate after a long hiatus from the Olympics. Right. And so what we all wanted to do was get our players acclimated again to international play. We hadn't also participated in an international event since 2016, the World Cup of Hockey. So, I think the generation of the idea sort of was hatched based on we should do something before the Olympics. And then, given the politics of the world and given some of the teams that we thought, couldn't be in this event, we said, let's just do something a little bit smaller. And that's where we came up with the concept of Four Nations. No individual was responsible for the idea. It really was a combination between the NHL and the NHLPA. When we work on these international events, we work on those together. And then, my memory is so foggy as to who came up with the name, and a lot of the rules were a combination of a lot of folks. It was really a team effort. And it's kind of fitting because, in hockey, that's all we talk about is team over individual. But in this one, it truly was, and then we watched how it just took off. Like, I think we realized a few weeks out that the players were going to be really into this.
Yeah.
Like, this was a big event for the players. And that kind of got us all psyched to know that, like, we might have something here. And obviously we did have something here.
Steve, I want to get to momentum because right now the NHL is like the it girl that just came to the high school and everyone wants to date her because you have the momentum coming off the Four Nations. You've got celebrities like Charles Barkley that can't get enough hockey that are singing the praises. You guys have the big event in Columbus, Ohio, the outdoor event at Buckeye Stadium, 80,000 people. And then as you look forward, I know you're always planning ahead, the Olympics in less than a year, and then you have the World Championships, a year or two after that. So I just think, personally, I mean, I'll be covering snowboarding at the Olympics next year, but I wonder if hockey is going to be the most watched thing at the Olympics come February.
Yeah, I think our friends at the Olympic Games are pretty happy because what this no question did was set up what will be one amazing Olympic event. And I think our players are just going to be counting down the days to the Olympics because, everything that happened, and I know it was only 4 teams, but It did set the table really well. I mean, if we get another USA-Canada game in the Olympics, I mean, you think the television ratings were impressive this year? Just wait. It will be incredible.
Talk about John Cooper, the head coach of Canada, in some of his comments about this is the greatest thing that's happened to hockey in a decade. And during those early fights with the Kachucks, he goes, I wasn't even watching the ice. I was looking at the fans' reaction. Is he speaking in hyperbole, or was he pretty much spot on?
Yeah, no. what I love about him and what makes him also a great coach is just he speaks his mind. He is as raw and honest as it gets. And you mentioned PK Subban being an incredible spokesperson for the
Yeah.
NHL. John Cooper is just that. He's quite the coach, but he's also somebody who gets it and who wants the league to grow. Like who will get out there and put himself out there. And we love him. And believe me, I saw his comments and I talked to him throughout the entire tournament. He'll make a suggestion or two that are really amazing. And so he's great for our sport, and he's really a good guy. So and there was so many more people. Like everybody said the right things because it felt right. It felt
Right.
good, and the whole way through, no one knew who was going to win in the end. And let's face it, we went to overtime, and the United States had many chances to win in that overtime.
Jordan Bennington, MVP. I don't know how he stopped some of those Austin Matthews shots.
Yeah, so it could have been any result. It really could. And the first game of the tournament, Canada beat Sweden in overtime. If Sweden beats Canada, it could have been a whole different tournament. Listen, in any sport, you never know. That's why they play the game. That's why we all love sports so much. It just worked out so well along the way. A lot of, as I said, factors that led to the success. But we'll take it. I'm not going to argue with it. We'll take it.
And as always, you can hear my full chat with Steve on our YouTube channel. Just search for This Sporting Planet. All right. So Edward in Singapore, Natalie in London. What did you guys make of the spectacle on ice?
Right. I'm going to be brutally honest. This was so off the radar over here. Didn't even know it was happening. The only thing I then found out about was the fight. That went everywhere on social media, and that was quite entertaining. But the rest of it, I honestly, I just didn't even hit our shelves over here in the UK.
Same here. I watched the fight, which was right at the start of the highlights package. It is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, Todd. I mean, just explain this to us. Normally in football, when a fight breaks out, somebody jumps in there, the referee, they break it up immediately, and it ends. From what I understood, the referees just let the two guys go at it. And in fact, everyone else cleared some space so they could have the space to fight. This is just what happens in hockey, isn't it?
It's what happens in hockey. Now, this can't happen in the Olympics. And that, I'm talking with Steve about how the Olympics are coming up in less than a year's time in Italy and how this might be the most viewed thing. Once the gloves go off, and this is what's the interesting thing, a lot of times in NHL games, in highlights, some of the players are mic'd up. And so they'll basically agree to this before. They're like, hey, you want to go? Yeah, I want to go. I want a piece of you. Yeah. Once the gloves come to the ground, and you obviously have to lose the stick, you can't swing the stick or you're gone for a long time. It's on. And I think it's just an old code. This is a hockey code of just how it is done. You had a problem with me, I got a problem with you. Let's just settle it right here and now. And it's a little barbaric, and I feel like it's a bit antiquated, like we need to get past this because it gets a little bit thuggish. But it is so ingrained in the culture that I don't see it going anywhere in the near future. If you do this, like I said, in the Olympics, verboten, it is not a good thing, and your team will not be happy about it. But yeah, the Kachuk brothers started this thing off, and they said they basically wanted to set a tone. And I just think the way it played out, as I spoke with Steve, that the Americans won on Canadian ice amidst all the political things with the tariffs and all that. And then the Canadians win it in overtime with probably the best player in the world right now, Connor McDavid, in overtime. You just can't write this kind of drama. It was fantastic. So I want both of you, before we get to Italy, Milan Cortina Olympics in less than a year's time, you guys brush up on your hockey, because I really think the hockey tournament with the pros coming back for the Olympics is going to be a huge deal.
Couple of quick questions, Todd, on that. First of all, is it theater? Do these guys really want to fight, or are they doing it because it gets them in the headlines, it gets them on the highlights reel? And secondly, do you think that the NHL and hockey players like the fact that they are mostly known for fighting, and that most people like myself and Natalie would have seen the fight and probably not the rest of the match, where I'm sure there was a lot of skillful playing?
Yeah, no, good questions by you, Edward. I think no, it is not theater. All you have to do is look at some of these guys and they're missing teeth, and there's guys on each team that are known as thugs, or they're the fighters. So you take a shot at our best player, whether it's Connor McDavid or whoever, and our thug's going to probably go after you. If you cheap shot him, he's going to go after you. And so a lot of this is not theater in the sense of these are things that have been brewing for a while. These are either comments or things they've read about each other. And so rather than do it on a tweet, as Taylor Swift would say, it's a cop out. They just throw the gloves down and say, let's go. And they settle it right there. And if you ever get a chance to hear the microphones, if players are mic'd up, they go at it and it is all on for 30, 60 seconds. Once they hit the ice, though, the refs converge on it, separate them. They skate away. They go do their 2-3 minutes of penalty time. But you'll hear them in there and they'll scrap it and they'll go, you done? Yeah, I'm good. You good? Yeah, good fight. And they'll separate them like, this is craziness. But it's how it is. Like I said, it's part of the culture of hockey. And I tell you what, and I'm not advocating violence, but I would like to see maybe a little more of that heart in NBA players. I mean, PK Subban said it the best. In hockey, you play hurt or you play injured. Are you hurt or are you injured? Well, you play through hurt, not injured. NBA right now, you split a nail. I better sit out a couple days. I'm getting paid $42 million, but I better sit out a few days. So there you go. That's the end of my speech.